Good evening. It's wonderful to be back here. Thank you to the organizers for their wonderful preparations and to all of you for being here. Quote, delusive thoughts and feelings hidden in lotus threads. Again, delusive thoughts, delusive, discursive with the mind, defiling thoughts and feelings hidden, we can't see them, hidden in lotus threads. This is a famous quote from the ancient Buddhist sutras that has been taken up in Zen. As you may know, the lotus flower is the symbol of Buddhism, of awakening. So it's very interesting that this statement speaks of this flower of awakening, that there are delusive thoughts hidden in the lotus threads. The threads, like a very thin string. Actually, the lotus plant, not the lotus root in Oriental cooking we often eat. In Japan, for example, it's common to eat the bamboo shoots, or the lotus, we say roots. We're talking about the threads. So, there's a long stem, and then the flower blooms. Well, in that long stem, if you break it open, there are these really, really thin, tiny threads. They're used to make lotus silk, which is one of the most expensive fabrics in the world, to make monks' robes, among other things. They have to be strung and made into the lotus threads within 24 hours, or they will dry out. So part of the reason they're so expensive. But here, the simple metaphor is these very, very tiny threads inside of the lotus. Delusions are hidden in there. Defiling thoughts and emotions are hidden in the lotus threads. What about this? What does this say about our present practice? Hakuin, the Japanese Zen master who died a little over 250 years ago, he speaks in quite some detail with reference to practice about these lotus threads and the delusive thoughts. He said he spent years trying to understand, what does that really mean? It's also mentioned in the record of Rinzai, or Lin Chi in Chinese, and in much of the Buddhist literature. Again, the point is delusions, delusive thoughts and emotions are hidden. They remain hidden, concealed. We cannot see them clearly. What does this really mean for our practice? Are these delusive thoughts and feelings hidden in lotus threads? For example, hidden in the relative quiet of Zazen? Is it talking about the delusive threads hidden in the joy of attainment, the joy of some kind of an insight or enlightenment, so-called Kensho experiences, and so on? Since I'm in Germany, I will remind you that the great German mystic Meister Eckhart, in one of his most famous sermons on blessed are the poor in spirit, he says, if there is a place in your soul where God can enter, you are not yet truly poor. Is he pointing at the same thing? What does this say for our practice, for us, here and now, in our present situation? To be truly settled in practice, real practice, is simply to truly come home. In earlier retreats, we have gone into detail with the Dharma talks about the right approach in practice. The importance, for example, of sustained focus and concentration, that it needs to be constant. We also have spoken about the importance of a lifestyle, a day-to-day life in accord with this practice. It is what we are now doing together. Done properly, this practice may have seemed very difficult, very painful, very exhausting, very, very hard. And yet, if we give ourselves to it, if the practice is true, that practice, what was difficult becomes quite natural, quite effortless. What seemed impossible from the outside becomes inevitable. It cannot help but happen. This is what happens when practice is proper, correct, true, genuine, thoroughgoing. We find ourselves at home. This is getting settled in real practice. This is discerning, clearly seeing through, discerning the discursive thoughts and feelings that remain hidden in the lotus threads. There are endless ways, but this is one good way in a retreat to help us all together to focus on the fundamental, not the endless questions and problems that the self seems to have, but the one problem that the self is. Otherwise, it's endless. You solve one problem, another one comes. Sometimes 2 or 3 comes. It is a profound symptom of the dis-ease itself. It must be grasped at the root. It must be undone at the root. This is the basis of Buddhism. Otherwise, you endlessly go around and around and around in the same old circles. Maybe having interesting ideas, insights, thoughts, feelings. But it is simply a profound symptom of the dis-ease. You must see this, otherwise you're sitting there dreaming. You must wake up to this. This is the basis, not just of Zen, but of genuine Buddhist practice. Please take it seriously. What is called the one great matter of life and death, of birth and death, is right underfoot, as the title of the German book puts it, The way begins and ends right under our feet, right there. And yet we all know from our experience how easy it is for the discursive mind, the wandering mind, to say, yes, understood, great, let's do it. And 5 minutes later, you're off. Wonderful delusion again, aren't you? Huh? Imagination, a story. Sounds very good for a while. But you just end up back here anyway. So maybe it's a good idea not to waste your time, your energy, and see once what is directly underfoot. Yes, the lotus flower, the symbol of Buddhism, of awakening. What Gautama Buddha in the statues is often seen sitting. He's sitting on a lotus flower. Yes, you are too. And it is essential to see into, to discern, to see through, and to undo the delusive thoughts and feelings hidden in those marvelous lotus threads. That is the point of genuine Buddhist practice and of Zen practice. From tomorrow morning, I believe Bernhard explained some of it this evening, we will have a chance for one-on-one. Anytime I'm sitting here, you're welcome to come and ask if you feel the need for one-on-one. Otherwise, each full day, probably not time on the last day, but beginning tomorrow, each full day, we will have one-on-one in order. So I will stand up, say that, and then after a moment, I'll go up after a moment, Mikhail will begin, and then we go in order. This is not a time to discuss your practice. Genuine one-on-one, real Doksan or Sanzen, is only for this, the one great matter of birth and death. I'm not a psychologist. We have a bunch of them here. After the retreat, please talk with them. One-on-one is not for psychological issues. I am not a psychologist. I will not play that game. That's not my job. It would be irresponsible for me to do that. It's true, the psychological issues and the spiritual issues are not completely separate. They are one in and as each one of us. It's true. There is a way to go to the root. That's the spiritual, the religious part of the practice. Again, to put it very simply, as one of your great German Protestant theologians, Paul Tillich, put it, it's not that the ego has a problem or has problems, or some egos have problems and some don't. It's that the ego is a problem. And until you get to that, you're whistling Dixie, as we say. You're wasting your time. This is another way of seeing what it really means. How could there be delusive threads in these marvelous delusions in there? In my little lotus? You better look. Don't waste your life in dreams and delusions. Even if they're Buddhistic or Zenistic, they're still delusions. Let us take these several days to see what it is that we, you, each one of you in your own way, must see through. This is not someone else's concern. This is not something from a book. This is not something someone tells you, including me. It's something you must pull out of the very depths of yourself. There's no other way. No one else can do it for you. No one else needs to do it for you. You pulling out what is in the depths of your heart, opening up to what is in the depths of your heart. That is real practice. That is getting settled in real practice. Sitting there endlessly trying to perfect your zazen. Oh, it's good. Definitely work on your zazen posture. But endlessly trying to perfect it. Endlessly trying to breathe in a certain way or hold your mind artificially in a certain way. Of course, practically speaking, this discipline is helpful, but that is not Zen. That is not Zen. You can do that until the cows come home, as we say, until the end of time, and it will make no difference. You will just become a very good Zen zombie. All you need to do is look, really see what is in the depths of your own heart. If it's not there, it's not anywhere.